I find is by sticking to the craft, I'll have an idea of what my story is and what it's going to be about and so on,
Hmm.
but I won't necessarily know, what the theme of the story is,
Yeah.
afterwards. I realized about it, I talked to somebody a couple of weeks after 12 months came out, and they said, well, it's really cool. You wrote a book with a theme about grief that you didn't, make incredibly depressing the whole time. And it's like, and I kind of stopped and I went, oh, it was a story about grief. Okay, I just didn't realize that at the moment
Yes.
because I
Yes.
was I was quite busy working on my story and making sure my
Right.
sequels were lined up and so
Yeah.
on. And as a result, it was like, yeah, you need to meet audience expectations, but
Yeah.
what they really expect from you is a good story. And also, audiences are weird because they want their expectations to be met, but they also want to be surprised. you
Exactly.
know so it's one of those things where it's like you got to do it, but in the way they weren't expecting or the way they weren't looking for.
Yeah.
And that can be and that can be a real challenge. That can be tough to do. Sometimes you have to deliver things sort of straight. Here
Right.
it comes. Yeah, I mean, you knew this was going to happen. There it is. And oh, I thought it would be a much bigger deal. Well, this particular case it wasn't. But you can't write the story for everyone.
Yeah.
And so for me, I write the story that I know is going to make me happy, that at the end of the day I'm going to look at and say, I'm glad I wrote that story, I'm proud of it, what it had to say.
Yeah.
you know
Our
but
friends in the romance writing space, uh, they romance readers and romance writers wear their tropes on their sleeve.
yes, they
They'll
do.
tell you, I'm looking for an enemies to lovers, and I want it to have these tropes, and they're very specific about it. They want you to hit all those things, yet they want you to tell it to them in a way that's fresh and unique and makes
Right.
them cry a little bit, makes them happy, and then they want to go buy another one that
And do it
meets all
again.
those same things and do it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
And
Again, that's the first thing little kids say when you get done with the story. When you get done reading them the story,
exactly.
they say again.
Yeah.
And grown-ups are no different. We just try to be more cool about it.
Right. We try to be more cool about it. That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Speaking of themes, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they said that they think about theme first when they start envisioning a story, and I said I never think about theme, but invariably at the end I look back and I can see a theme that has emerged in the telling. And I
You
like
write
how you described that 12 months was kind of like that for you.
you
Is
write
that
the
typically?
story to find out what your theme is.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't set up ahead of time and tell yourself, I'm going to write a story with this theme. You write the story to find out what it is.
Right.
Uh, uh, and again, again with the Dresden Files, dealing with grief. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a story that that's what that was about. All right, I didn't plan it that way.
Yeah.
I was writing the next bit of Harry Dresden's adventures, and I knew we're going to have to explore, the impact of all these events that they had on him, in
Yeah.
order for this to feel real. But to actually say, oh, I've actually had all these people come up to me on the tour for this books, man. These folks coming up to me, and they would say, hey, this is what I went through, and they would tell me just about horrible stuff, about losing their wife and their child and their mother within 6 months of each other, that
Wow.
sort of thing, and I mean, like these huge, horrible problems, and not loud problems, not ones
Yeah.
that everybody looks at and
Right.
what they had to go
Right.
through, and then that person comes up to me and says, hey, this said a lot of things that I wish I had been able to say and I wasn't able to, and
Mm,
thank you for giving me some words to put to some of these feelings, stuff
yeah.
like that. And it's like, you don't set out and plan for that. You plan to write a good story that's going to connect with people, and that people are going to read and find intriguing and want to be there in,
Yeah.
and if you can, if that kind of stuff comes out, then I guess maybe you're just doing the storytelling right.